Three Khalistan extremists have been sentenced for the attempted murder of a popular Auckland-based radio host, Harneek Singh, who has been vocal against the ideology of Khalistan. Sarvjit Sidhu, aged 27, pleaded guilty to attempted murder, while Sukhpreet Singh, aged 44, was found guilty of being an accessory. The third individual, a 48-year-old Auckland resident with interim name suppression, had planned the attack. He had harbored resentments against Harneek Singh for his vocal opposition to the Khalistani movement. During the hearing, Judge Mark Woolford had emphasized the need for community protection and a strong deterrence against religious fanaticism. Joining us on the broadcast is a very special guest this afternoon, Mr. Jitad Bharadwaj, who's the editor of the Australia Today. Sir, thank you for joining us on NewsX. Now, there is no denying that a nefarious Khalistani nexus is operating, whether it be in the United States, in Canada, in UK, Australia, or even in New Zealand now. Terrorist attacks are taking place. Consulates and temples are being vandalized, and civilians such as Harneek Singh are being targeted. Now, New Zealand is a part of the Five Eyes group along with Australia, Canada, the United States, as well as the United Kingdom. These terrorists are operating on their soil, and one cannot deny that such incidents are taking place. Yet, Khalistanis are roaming scot-free. Why is this happening?
See, the Western world has given them a very long rope, and there is no denial that it's the fault of the systems in, if you want to call it, Five Eye countries or the Western world. Harneek Singh case is not alone. However, it is unique in terms of the way the justice system has found the perpetrators of this vicious attack on Harneek Singh. And this incident, mind you, happened in 2020 December. So before all the hell went loose in Western world in terms of Khalistani goons, the community at the forefront is the first one, which is the victim. And Harneek was that person who could see what is happening in New Zealand communities when they were planning for a number of their referendums in Australia and New Zealand. And believe me that this case was the reason that the Khalistani group, the Sikh for Justice, didn't go in New Zealand for their referendum. They just restrained themselves to Australia. And when I talk about Australia, they didn't leave anything undone. They attacked Indian Australians here. They attacked temples. They threatened temples. And even my team and myself, they threatened to harm. They phoned me with my car registration numbers. They phoned me telling this is your address and we'll come there and run a truck over you. They put my family's pictures, my kids' pictures online on TikTok and other social media accounts to threaten us that we are here. If you oppose or write against us, we will do what we will do. This is the modus operandi of this. If you see it in Canada, if you see it in UK, in Italy, there were two Indian origin journalists who were writing against them, and they threatened, they put stones on their homes and all the rubbish, what they do. And on Harneek Singh's case, they went one step ahead and they actually did what they did. And if you see how it all happened, the history of it, there was a religious preacher or whatever you want to call him. This man has influence on the youngsters. This man used to visit them and tell you have to do things for religion. So everything what they were trying to tell them was in a disguise of you are trying to protect the religion. So they tried to make Harneet Singh against the religion. However, he was trying to explain the right thing to people. And that's what they don't want. They don't want anybody to show the mirror to these Khalistani goons, to mirror to this Sikh for Justice people. And they threaten, killing is very chilling. When I heard this news in December, I was just shocked. Harneet works. I have seen his work, how good he is, how rational he is, and somebody attacking him have to be insane and have to be, as Justice Woolford has said, fundamentalists, religious fundamentalists, and they should be nubbed in the bud to protect the society which is here in Australia or New Zealand or any other country.
Indeed, sir, I request you to stay on with us, but also joining us on the broadcast is my colleague Ajay Jandal. Ajay, there are also reports coming in that there were attempts to coerce certain other people living in the community to carry out this terror attack, this crime, in fact. What can you tell us about that? Well, there seems to be a connectivity issue at my colleague's end. But of course, I'd like to take our viewers through these details that we are getting to know at this point of time. Harneet Singh was stabbed within an inch of his life. He had managed to lock the door of his vehicle and attract neighbors' attention by sounding the horn, preventing potential bleeding to death from excessive stab wounds. But apart from the people who have been convicted, there are certain other people in the community, one such being a former bodybuilder, Avtar Singh, who had told the court during proceedings that he used to be friends with the man whose name has been suppressed. However, he stopped associating with that particular person who he labeled a thug, quote unquote, thug and mafia. And he has stated that he has a way especially around broken people. There was in fact another person who Avtar Singh knew, Baljinder, who had told the court that he had been asked to kill Harneet Singh but had declined. So there were of course attempts made to incite or perhaps even coerce people into carrying out this crime. This sort of incitement, this sort of radicalization of the youth is taking place in New Zealand and even in other countries, as I mentioned earlier. Meanwhile, Mr. Bharadwaj, I'd like to rope you back into the conversation. You've told us that you've also witnessed these sort of incidents taking place. What can you tell us about what you've seen over the course of your career as a journalist regarding attempts to incite violence, attempts to radicalize innocent youth, especially Indians who have in fact landed in Australia or even New Zealand for that matter, who hope for a better life but are led astray?
See, let me tell you how these people were recruited by the person whose name has been suppressed as yet. So we can't name the person who actually plotted to kill Harneet Singh. So he identified people. What they do is, there are kabaddi tournaments and all that. They find out those people and they support them, and they also find out people who has past convictions for small petty things, like conviction for assault, small alcohol spurred fights in community or something. And the person who was convicted almost a year back, the first person to be convicted in this case was Jaspal Singh. And Jaspal had some small cases with police. However, he tried to reform himself. However, in this process of reforming, this 48-year-old man, whose name we can't take, has recruited him and made him to believe that he is doing something, a favor for the community, a favor for the religious sect he is doing, and do it. If you don't want to do it, please do it for the sect. And that's what he believed at that point in time. And now he pleads that I have done the wrong thing, whatever he says. He was the first one to attack with that knife on Harneek Singh. He told the whole story in court, and that's what took court to sentence rest of the three people now after almost a year and a half. My experience, as far as it is, I see that the Sikh for Justice especially has pumped a lot of money, especially from two European countries, Canada and UK. Italy and UK and Canada. So these three places have transferred hell lot of money in Australia and other places to help in the name of helping and supporting the youth. What they do is they try to recruit the international students. They try to send their tuition fees for the university, and then they give them luxurious cars. In Australia itself, we reported before, 36 cars, Jeep Wranglers were bought and given as gifts to these youths, and they were made sect pramukh or something like that, they were calling it, that you have to recruit other people, just paint Khalistan on that Jeep and roam around in the city and try to recruit young people. That is their modus operandi. And among them, if they find somebody really vulnerable and they push them to the boundaries and want them to do their dirty work. These youngsters don't realize that what are the consequences. Thank God that Harneek Singh was saved in that vicious attack. Thank God that he is here with us to tell his stories. We all are understanding how dangerous these Khalistani goons can be and up to what extent they can go. In Australia, they have done pushing in local gurdwaras. There have been a number of incidents where they have done pushing with elderly people who say that this kind of behavior or your divisive agenda is not welcome in the gurdwara. Then they start pushing. They go in the parking lot and they just damage their cars. They threaten their kids. If their kids are young enough, then they threaten that if you come, we will do X, Y, Z, nasty things to them. So nobody want to be in that situation. I myself don't want to be in this situation. If I go to the Gurdwara, I shouldn't be harassed just because I do not subscribe to their religious fundamentalist views, or I do not subscribe to their hatred. However, my team, a couple of people who are in Sydney, in Melbourne, their posters were made that this person, if you see him in Gurdwara, if you see him in temple, if you see them in market, please hurt them. This is the message they were delivering to their supporters here in Australia. Imagine if one fanatic, one idiot comes up and hits us, what happens? This is the danger, and the authorities here in Australia, in New Zealand, Canada, and America or UK, I'm not sure whether they recognize this or not, but they are not acting as they should be.
Indeed, and also joining us on the broadcast is Colonel J.S. Sodhi, a defense expert. Sir, good afternoon and thank you for speaking with us on NewsX. We've just heard Jitad Bharadwaj, who is the editor of Australia Today, speak to us. He's shared his experiences of how it is like and how exactly the extremism, the Khalistani extremism and nexus operates in Australia as well as New Zealand. But we are of course talking about this rather unfortunate incident where Harneek Singh was stabbed over 40 times by a Khalistani extremist. Three of these extremists have now been found guilty of this crime, but one of the statements that Harneek Singh had made in the court is that his family faces fear each day when the sun goes down. So what do you make of all of these developments? Do you think it is time that countries such as New Zealand wake up, recognize the sort of threat that exists within it, because snakes will eventually bite back?
Jai Hind Priya, it's my honor to be in a news channel. Firstly, my appreciation and I applaud the Australian government, the Australian police and the Australian judicial system for having convicted these three people who attacked a Sikh radio jockey, resulting him getting grievous injuries. Well, we all know that for the past few years, developed countries like Australia, New Zealand, Germany, France, United States and Canada have become the hotbeds of terrorism for anti-India and anti-Hindu activities. Well, when the Australian Prime Minister visited India in March last year, our Prime Minister Modi had brought up in bilateral talks with him about this menace which is increasing on the Australian soil, and he had assured that he will take strong action, and he has lived up to his word. So if the Australian government can do it, the other developed countries' government should also do it and ensure that no anti-India or anti-Hindu hatred activities are allowed on their soil.
Indeed, sir. And one last question I would like to ask you. There are these activities that are taking place on their soil. There's no denying of this. New Zealand is a part of Five Eyes group. US has recently told that they have quote unquote foiled a plot to kill Pannu, harm Pannu and target Pannu, who is a known Khalistani terrorist who has come out and threatened Air India. Meanwhile, such activities, such crimes in fact are taking place on their soil, yet no action is taken. Is it time that these five countries wake up?
Well, we are definitely, where these developed countries, especially the Five Eye countries, boast about having the best intelligence system. Yet at the same time, they leave no stone unturned to falsely blame India, but at the same time, they allow their soil to be used for anti-India and anti-Hindu activities. This is quite ironical, and it is quite strange that these developed countries on one hand say that they are good friends of India, and on the other hand, they allow their soil to be used for anti-India activities. Well, it is high time that these countries should come clean. The government of India has time and again said that it is neither our policy nor our intent to kill any foreign citizen in any foreign country. And whenever any evidence is brought to our notice, we will order the inquiry, which India has done in the case of US false allegations. So while on one hand, India is pretty quick and fast in ensuring that inquiry is done and the culprits are brought to book, the United States government, Canada government, the other developed countries government are pretty silent, and they ensure that the soil is again and again used for anti-India and anti-Hindu activities.
Indeed, and also joining us on the broadcast is Ms. Joyita Vasu, who is the editor of the Sunday Guardian. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on NewsX. We're of course discussing the unfortunate incident of Harnik Singh, who was stabbed 40 times in December 2020. Right now, 3 of the Khalistani goons who had stabbed him have been declared guilty by a court in New Zealand. Colonel Sodhi was just right now mentioning that all the countries of the Five Eyes intelligence, whether it's the US, the UK, Canada, Australia or even New Zealand, are rather silent when such crimes take place. We had Jitat Bharadwaj, who is the editor of Australia Today, come and say that authorities on ground don't take too much action. Could you please tell us why why is it that authorities don't take so much action? Because it is very evident by now that they are fostering Khalistani extremists who are radicalizing their youth.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. One of the reasons why they do not take what India says, about these Khalistani terrorists, they are not extremists, they are terrorists, seriously, is because you see, they see things through the prism of their own templates. They see through it through the prism of their own histories, and their dealings with a lot of countries where there have been these secessionist movements, where the governments over there have tried to paint these people as extremists. So what they try to do is that in India's case also, they try to fit the Khalistani movement into that template So they would rather believe the Khalistanis when they say that there is a popular movement that is going on among Sikhs in India, and these are the people who want to secede, and this is a domestic problem where the Indian government is oppressing them. So they would rather believe these people than believe what the government will tell us. It's a question of that white colonial, that mindset, imperial colonial mindset that they have, where we are the judge, jury, executioner. We judge who is who is a terrorist and who is a freedom fighter. Only they have the authority to declare somebody a terrorist and somebody else a freedom fighter. India, which did not figure in their, ken of things for a long time. Now it's only now recently that India has become so prominent. They would not have. They are continuing with that practice of not taking India seriously. They would rather believe, their own news agencies, which often, more than often, they distort news than they would. Say, for example, our newspapers, what we say, they will say that we are sold out media, we toe the government line. No, Khalistanis are not bad people, they are good people. They're only secessionists, they're only activists, nothing more than that. And that is why when cases like this happen, what happens is that this mask that the Khalistanis, two things happen. Number one, what happens is that the Khalistanis, when they are trying to prove to the world that they are nice, peaceful freedom fighters, this mask is ripped off. And number two, the kind of the narrative that these Western media, they are trying to kind of spin, and the Western governments also fall for that narrative. That is, there is a full-on secessionist movement going on in India among Sikhs. That there is a difference between Sikhs and Hindus, that Sikhs are being oppressed by Hindus. That narrative comes apart because it is what happens. These terrorists, these murderers, these assassins, they start attacking their own community people. So the minute that starts happening, this particular rose-tinted glass that these Western commentators and the governments and their authorities are wearing, that kind of comes off. So you see, this is a lesson for the West.
Indeed, and as you've mentioned, Firangi media bias only adds fuel to the fire. I would like to thank all the guests who've taken out time to join us on the broadcast, present their perspectives regarding this development that we're tracking for all our viewers from New Zealand itself. Viewers, we will continue to track more news and updates from across the world and from within India also.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.